All right, so Jay,
So,
I know you've been playing video games for quite a long time.
Yep, since the 80s.
So, what are some of your favorite games? I know you've brought a few today. Just tell us a little bit about it and, your gaming experience.
All right, well, I'm going to go with my first one. It's going to be Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past. I think that's a lot of people's favorite game for Super Nintendo. Had a lot of memories of this game back in the day. Definitely playing with my father and all that stuff. It was fun. Probably took me about 6 months to beat it because I sucked at games back in the day.
Actually, that game is actually great. I remember I got that on Christmas as well. I was able to play that right away with that one. That's a good one. So,
yeah, I have that game too. I remember having quite a bit of fun with that game. It's just a little different though. It doesn't have a gold cartridge though, like the NES ones, right? The NES ones had the gold cartridges, right?
Well, the Ocarina of Time even had
Ocarina of Time. They never did that with this, right?
Not that I know of.
not that I
they
know
did.
of. No.
Yeah. It's still a great game. One of the best games of all time, especially for Super Nintendo.
Yep, it still is. It still holds up.
It does. It does, actually. You can still play it now, and it's great. What else you got here?
Of course, Final Fantasy VII. This is the game that made me sell my Nintendo. It did. I was at this guy's house right here. I think you actually, you know what? You had the demo of this game. Remember?
Yes, I did. I definitely
it was at like the first stage.
And you had just a few of the summons that you could look at, but they didn't have them all. I think maybe Titan was on it.
That's what made me buy the PlayStation. Ever since then, I was been a PlayStation fan ever since. That's right. Sold all my Nintendo stuff. Terrible. I don't even want to think about it so bad.
Just NES though, right? You still have, You didn't sell Super Nintendo. You just sold your NES stuff.
No, just my NES.
Where'd you sell it to, Jay?
Sold to your aunt.
That's right. It went straight to my house. I never had it.
And I was actually hoping Joni still had that, actually.
I don't know if we still have that. I got to look into it.
I was hoping. But wait, you might have it?
I got to look to see.
But if you still have that, oh, man.
That'd be great. Can you imagine that?
It might.
I'll buy it right back off Joni.
Well, Final Fantasy VII, I remember, it's definitely considered one of the best games of all time, and it was a big game on the PlayStation. Remember, that came out when we were in high school, and remember,
it came out.
Remember there was somebody in high school that bought the Japanese version because they couldn't wait for the American?
Yes.
And they were sitting there translating
the
Japanese dictionary.
That's right. Yeah, I remember them doing that.
That just tells you what kind of game it was and how anticipated it was, especially back in the day. I mean, you had it too, right, James? You played it.
Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of my favorites.
And then they just remake it.
Well, that's another that proves you right there how popular it is, because for them to take the time and manpower just to create a remake of just actually the first half of the game, not even the whole game, it's only the first half of the game. It was its own game in itself.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that. I thought it was the whole game.
No.
Now they're in talks of like when the second one may be coming up, but I don't know when that's actually going to be. It's the second part, I should say.
Yeah.
What else you got over there, bro?
And of course, I got to throw in a PC game. I got Half-Life. Of course, this is a long-awaiting Half-Life 2, and obviously everybody wants a sequel to it, which I don't think it'll ever happen. Well, there is actually a VR game that just came out that I heard was really good.
Oh, yeah, based on Half-Life?
Yeah, I heard it was really good, but listen, Half-Life was one of the top. I think it's almost there with Unreal when it first came out. I think it's, it still lives up. I mean, you could play it now on good old games or anything like that, and it still holds up compared to, graphics today, but it's still one of my faves.
Yeah, graphics were really good back then. And one of the best first-person shooters they ever had.
I think this OCT game has almost one of the best intros in a game ever. When you're taking the rail into the lab and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
I don't
remember. It's been a long time since I played it.
It's one of the. I'm telling you,
it's
a long beginning
ever.
No? But to me, it's one of my favorite intros to a game. So
you would definitely like it, I'm sure.
On intros, though, I gotta say, like, I don't know if you guys have one. I think one of my favorite intros is a couple of games, but I do like the Borderlands 1 intro. I like the music, and I just like the whole setup. I got a kick out of that. I thought it was real cool.
Oh, the Borderlands. Well, even Borderlands 2, the intro is very similar.
Yeah.
It's just as hilarious. I mean, it's a hilarious game in itself. But All right, so that's some of your top games of all time.
Yep. I mean, we only do
you.
3, right? I do have to say though. Can I throw one more in?
Go ahead, man. What you got?
This is a sad one. I should have prepared it earlier, but this is the end. This is to me is one of the ends to arcade games. Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct to me was one of the best arcade fighting games. At least to me it was, because I remember this is one of the last ones I think for me, because I remember going to the arcade and just playing this and the combos and all this crazy stuff. To me, it was great. It was a great, it's different than Street Fighter. Well, yeah, because of the combos and stuff like that. I think this is one of the first games to have like 100-hit combos and all this crazy ultras, and I don't know. I always had a strong feeling for this game, and I just couldn't wait for it to come out on Super Nintendo, because you play in the arcade, you see in the arcade, and you're like, wow, it's finally coming to a console. So, I mean, James, you probably had great feelings for this game
Killer Instinct was like, later on I played Tekken and things in the arcade game, and there was Street Fighter 2, but when this came out, it was like one of the most fun things to watch people when they did it right. You had them doing the shadow combo, and like you said, they'll go up to 100, and they just keep going ultra. Oh, man, that shit was fucking crazy.
I remember people going crazy, like, even like, you miss the arcade times when there's crowds around in the arcades and people fighting, and all of a sudden they do an ultra, and people are like, oh, shit, like, they get like crazy, right? You don't get shit like that anymore.
Well, this predates Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mortal Kombat, I think Mortal Kombat 3 came out even before this.
No, Mortal Kombat 1. Is it before?
Oh, Mortal Kombat 1, I believe, is before
way
this.
Before.
Oh,
Yeah.
Again, we're just your average geeks here. Sorry.
Mortal Kombat's a classic.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely one of my top 2.
I actually have
Mortal Kombat 2, I would say, but
the Genesis one. I have that at home, the original Mortal Kombat on that.
Well, that was...
Oh, serious?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, that's right. You got to enter the blood code, right?
I think that was Super Nintendo.
No, that was Super Nintendo. Genesis allowed
Genesis, you had like an option to turn it on or off, but Super Nintendo, you actually had to put the code on. You had to put a special code.
I thought they had it totally out of...
Not on Genesis, I don't think so.
No. I mean, on Super Nintendo. I thought Super Nintendo was totally no blood.
I think there was a special code that you had to put in.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but I could have sworn it was like that.
What I remember is the Genesis version never had a code, so it was automatic blood all the time. Okay. And then the Super Nintendo one didn't have blood at all. And
I thought it was just like sweat.
Yeah, I know that was the original, but I think there might have been a code that you had to add it for the Super Nintendo one eventually. I could be wrong, though, but it was originally there was no blood. That's why the Genesis version was
No, you had to do something special in order to make blood happen, I think. Yeah. Otherwise, it wasn't there at all.
Well, they certainly learned their lesson after the Genesis one destroyed them in sales. I remember Mortal Kombat 2 was just pure unadulterated blood, just whatever. It just, anything goes at that point.
They slapped the 17 age on it.
Yeah.
Going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at that point, they just said, all right, well, we'll let it go. I'm sure the sales were pretty good on that one.
Yeah, even that game brought so much. I mean, Mortal Kombat 2 did. I remember that in the arcade. We used to play in the corner right around from your house.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the arcade with that. There would be a line to play that game. And then all of a sudden you hear like, oh, shit. And then you just look and there'd be like fatality and people go crazy. See, that's the memories I have for arcade. You don't get that anymore. It's sad, but.
Back in the day when you had to figure it out yourself and there was no real
never mind
online stuff.
There's not even arcade anymore pretty much. It's like done.
Yeah. All the days when you think you're good and all of a sudden this 10-year-old comes up and he kicks your ass. Yeah. And then you feel like an idiot,
You thought you were good.
Yeah, like, I'm doing so good, yeah. Hey, Johnny, kicks your ass.
So my father pulled me up. We were playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcade. There was kids there. We went to Nathan's and this kid's kicking everyone's butt, whatever. And I was like, Dad, I want to play. So he gets the milk crate so I could climb up on the milk crate. And he puts the quarter in for me. And I just sit there and the kid's looking like... Like, I got to fight this kid. I feel bad, whatever. We go in, and I beat the kid down in the game in Street Fighter 2, and he was so pissed off. My father just sat there laughing because I was just like, nah. It was great. Sit on the milk crate, like, whatever, I got this, Dad, don't worry. Kid was pissed. That was awesome.
Well, James, you've also been a gamer for your whole life.
Yeah.
What games you got that you are
games,
special
like
to you?
I got a few games here. Final Fantasy VII, I have that at home. I could pull that out too for sure. I was gaming that. Well, I don't know if you had the Coleco, but I had Atari, so that was my thing. I started on the 7800. I think it was. There was the 26. I didn't have that one, But Genesis was my big thing I came into. So this one started my, like, one of the biggest ones here for me. Yeah. I had so much fun playing this. This is Shining Force right there. If you don't know Shining Force, get on Shining Force. Shining Force 1, 2, 3 is pretty good. That came out later on what was CD? It? Saturn, I think.
Sega CD came out with one too, right?
Oh, that's right. There is a Shining Force CD. I have that at home as well. I completely forgot. It's not one of the more popular ones. But Shining Force is a great game. Started a lot of things. But the precursor for a lot of RPGs and what got me and my father completely hooked into RPGs is this sucker right here. Phantasy Star 2. That was a big game and even came with a guide, which I still have somewhere in my house. It had all the maps and everything in it.
That's definitely your favorite one, the second?
I wouldn't say it's my 4's pretty good. I like it better than 3. 3 wasn't that great. I never got to play the first one, which I think was on the Sega Master System. Never got to play that one, but 2 is really great. I mean, I have it on my phone. So it's like one of those things. Yeah. Like,
they actually have Phantasy Star 2 on your phone?
Yeah, I have Phantasy Star 3 as well. I've been playing that too.
How does it play? Is it a pain in the ass to play it or not?
Yeah, I mean, I got the iPhone 6, so the screen isn't too bad, but when I had the smaller iPhone, I think it was like the 4, I was playing Shining Force on the phone because it was there too. Oh, wow. But it was so small that after a while you get nauseous because you're like cross-eyed trying to look and move things around. It was terrible. But these were the games that really started us. Well, me and my father at the time, really big into RPGs. So
and I love these. You said Phantasy Star 2 came with a guide?
Yeah, it came with the manual, which
like
is
standard?
Probably, I think it's even still in here. Yeah, so you have your regular manual.
That's another thing they don't have anymore.
Yeah, you don't get stuff.
You don't get guides anymore. I used to love those books.
It was a thicker book. It wasn't very big, but it had like all the maps, and it would show you like which way to go, what was in this chest. That it was pretty cool. Came with a guide. So that's my stuff right there. What about you? What you got?
All right. Well, for me, I started out on the NES back in the late '80s, but for me, one of my favorite games, of course, Goldeneye 007 for the N64. This game's, a pioneer, really, when it comes to first-person shooters on console games. They proved that console games could be good for first-person shooters.
And multiplayer.
And I love the movie. And the movie is actually what got me into James Bond. I'm a big James Bond fan now because of this movie. And the game is amazing, gameplay, and the graphics for what it was back in the day,
right,
was pretty decent. Especially with the N64, it was so very blocky.
Right.
A lot of the games, even this one is blocky, but a lot of the environments and a lot of the characters and such, they look like they're cut straight from the movie and put into the game. The way that they did it. I mean, Pierce Brosnan's James Bond, he kind of looks like him a little bit. Not as, you don't see him too much, but all the other characters, it's very accurate. It's really amazing for the time period that it was that they got that right. And of course the multiplayer, I mean, you guys know we spent hours playing multiplayer, us and some other friends of ours playing multiplayer on GoldenEye, running around,
Yeah, making sure that we don't put the golden gun in the match.
The cheap-ass golden gun.
That's fun, man. That's the fun part about it.
I know I always enjoyed booby-trapping the body armor with the proximity mines.
Oh, yeah.
So whenever anybody went to get it, they would blow up.
That's right. Well, we always gave the golden gun. We always played golden gun with a guy who, people that didn't really know how to play.
Yeah. But that was lots of fun.
Like Anthony, I can say it. It's all right.
Yeah.
Another game, of course, for me, was Unreal. I don't have the original Unreal game with me. I kind of misplaced it. I'm not sure where it is. A little disappointed by that.
I remember getting it when I was helping you out. I seen it.
Well, I had the box, but the actual game itself,
okay.
I'm not sure where it is. But this is an Unreal Anthology, so this has 1, 2, Unreal Tournament and Unreal Tournament 2004. But Unreal itself, the original game, was what got me into PC gaming, and of course got my father hooked onto PC gaming as well. And that was all because of this guy right here, Jay, showed it to me one day at his house on the computer.
I was like, yo, dude, you got to see this game.
The graphics were amazing for that time. I mean, what was it? It was like the mid-90s, right?
All I know is it worked on my computer.
Late 90s.
My computer was definitely smoking by the time it was done, but it definitely pulled it out. And,
eventually, even I got that game. After watching you guys play.
Yeah, I mean,
it was so much fun.
It's an amazing game, first-person shooter. You know, it's got a great story. The graphics, again, are just amazing, and you know, the gameplay is addictive. But yeah, I mean, that's what this guy had it and got me hooked on it, got my father hooked on it, and that's when we got into the whole PC gaming kick.
Just the whole part when you finally get out of the prison and you see like the whole world, like and you see the planets in the sky, like everything was just, even the music, like just you hear the nature sounds. But back then it was like amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you finally get out of that prison, you're like, whoa, like everything was like crazy.
Yeah, all the water effects and things like that.
Then,
I mean, for back then was just, it was amazing. You know, and I'll always remember that part in the opening scene where you're trying to escape from the ship and you get stuck in that room, and then all of a sudden, like the door doesn't open, it opens a little bit, and then you just hear all the screaming.
Oh yeah,
you open
people
up,
getting ripped up.
You hear the monster roaring and stuff, and then it opens up, and like there's just body parts falling all over the place, and you get a glimpse of the monster real quick, and then he like runs away, so you don't get to see exactly what you're running into right away. So it was definitely one of my favorites. I still play it now on my PC. I downloaded it from Good Old Games, so I still play it here and there.
There's no shame in playing old games.
No, and I love the
multiplayer.
The soundtrack. The soundtrack, of course, is great too. I remember I got the CD. I forget how I got it. I got it somehow. I don't remember where I got it from exactly. But the third game that I brought here that is very, very dear to me, one of my all-time favorites, was Deus Ex for the PC, the original one, the original Deus Ex. This game was, a first-person shooter with RPG elements to it, and that was something that was pretty much, not really heard of at that point. It wasn't heavy on the RPG elements, but there was some things in there that you would gain experience, and you would put those experience points towards different skills and such. But just the storyline of the game, the themes of it, I love that sci-fi, aliens, conspiracy type genre games and movies and stuff. So was really great. And also, of course, the choice, one of the staples of the Deus Ex franchise is choice. So being able to make different choices, and then those choices affect, how the game progresses for you and such. Different ways you can approach different missions and such.
Were there different endings because of the choices you make?
The game has different endings, but it's not the choices that you make during the course of the main game doesn't really affect them.
Yeah, okay.
It's really just like you get to the end, and then everybody pitches you their idea of how they want you to handle the final boss and such, and then you can choose. You can go do one ending, or you can go do a different one, depending on which one you want to try. And it was nice that you could save it and then go back and you can view every single ending. And every ending, it was pretty good. They had a little bit of a cinematic at the end and dialogue, so it tells you what was happening and such. So this is definitely, again, one of the all-time great, I think, PC games, especially, first-person shooters and such.
I think that game really influenced a lot of other games after that. I think that was definitely the first one to do something like that. I think.
Yeah.
Like strategic RPG first-person kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the first ones, right?
I would think so.
Definitely influences a lot of games, especially one we're going to talk about later.
And they did port the game, I believe, to the PlayStation 2. I think it was right. It was
really?
PlayStation 2.
I don't remember the port. I only played it on PC.
It was ported to one of them, PlayStation or PlayStation 2. Can't remember exactly, but PC is always going to be this original PC one is always going to be my favorite.
Mm-hmm.